All right, everybody, welcome back to the Touching Grass podcast. This is a podcast where two Appalachians and two Midwesterners talk about what's happening in the really real world in a conscious effort to push back against all the online dipshits that we have to deal with. I'm Woods. I'm here with Adam, Charles, and Chris. What's going on, guys?
Oh, another Sunday, living the dream.
Another fun day Sunday.
Yep. Another Sunday, surviving being terrorized by two kids.
Oh,
hey man, I survived driving from Portland, Maine to Philadelphia today, and it was a narrow thing in a couple of cases.
Yeah.
So I will see your kids and raise you New Jersey drivers.
There you go.
I was just gonna say I'd take my kids over New Jersey drivers any day.
Yeah.
When I moved to Illinois, I was really happy to hear people here, and even here in Illinois, already knew that Ohio drivers suck. Like, I didn't have to have that discussion with them. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's terrible." Yeah. Except they lump in Indiana drivers, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we've got some bad drivers here in Ohio, that's for sure. Especially around where I live, man. And like around where I live, they don't believe in insurance either, which makes it twice as fun.
Yeah, every state has their state that they're like, oh, drivers from that state are terrible. But I feel like every state that borders Ohio, their state with terrible drivers is Ohio.
Yeah,
we've earned it.
There is one class of driver that's worse than all of that. Anyone who has a Honda Odyssey.
My mother-in-law can confirm that one.
Yeah, almost every time somebody has nearly killed me on the road, they have been driving a Honda Odyssey, and for the longest time, I couldn't fucking figure out why that was. And then my younger brother, who I'm currently crashing with in Philly before driving back to Wisconsin, said, well, you do realize that the car is named after a book about a guy who was famously bad at driving and got lost for like 10 years trying to go from like modern day Turkey to Greece. So yeah, that car comes with a warning sign, and it's the name.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. It really feels like the product team at Honda maybe missed that one. Like that seems like an oversight. It feels like they did not do their due diligence.
Yeah, I'm completely unaware of this mythos, so I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think the last I saw, like an actual like trip from Troy to Ithaca by sailboat takes like 8 days.
Probably roughly the same amount of time it would take to drive a Honda Odyssey there.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, guys. Let's get into it. We had planned to live stream this, but 4 college-educated men could not pull that off because apparently we have a lot of weird rules with Facebook and YouTube.
I was going to say we're perfectly capable of pulling it off. It's just big tech didn't want it to be pulled off.
And we thought it would be something as simple as like I throw a link, like we record here in StreamYard, and I throw a link to Chris, and he throws it up on Facebook, and we're just fucking everywhere. And no, that was not that simple. There are days and followers. So if you're listening to this and you haven't followed us on Facebook, please go and follow us on Facebook, because we need to hit 100 followers and be around for 60 days before we're allowed to stream on Facebook. Don't know why.
What we're saying is that if you're not following us on Facebook, you want the fascists to win.
It's basically
that's a fair conclusion, I think.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing on the agenda, and I will kind of drop this, and then I'll ask questions or maybe comment later, but we saw a very publicized race in New York for the mayor's race. This was just the primary. We're not even to the general yet. And people are very, very divided because Zoran apparently defeated Andrew Cuomo. And I mean, I don't. Is it official yet? I mean, I know he won in the first round of the multiple choice voting, and I think it was going to be like the next Tuesday they were going to official it or something.
I think the state of it at the moment is that they haven't done the official tally of the conclusion of the ranked choice voting,
right?
But that it's basically it is. I don't know if it's mathematically impossible, but it's mathematically very improbable that anyone other than Zoran Mamdani has won the Democratic primary for mayor of New York.
Yeah, right. And I actually think that it's even. I actually think it might be because most of Lander's votes, who was the third vote getter, are going to go to Mamdani, just because he endorsed him.
Well, which is because New York City has ranked choice voting in their mayoral primary, they may have it in other primaries too, but there is this practice that is kind of foreign to most of the rest of the country called cross endorsement, which is where candidates in a ranked choice system will mutually say, if you rank me first, you should rank this other guy second. Yeah. And they will designate each other in that perspective. And Mamdani and Lander did cross endorse one another. Yeah. So it is probably likely that Mamdani is the second choice of a significant amount of Lander voters in the first round.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's funny how much attention was paid to a primary. Like, I get it, it's New York City, but you could make the argument that no attention like that gets paid to any other big city's mayoral primary either. So this is just me selfishly plugging. Please pay attention to your local elections too. Don't just pay attention to your, don't just pay attention to the ones that you see on Twitter.
The other factor, and it's not just that it's New York City, it's that it's New York City, and also this is a off year. So there's not a lot else going on right now electoral wise. So if you're somebody who is prone to paying attention to politics, it was kind of the only game in town at this point in the calendar.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, so I'm going to be honest with you, as I loved watching Cuomo get his ass beat like that. I loved it. I know the four of us on this call have some differing feelings about Zoran, but I think we can all agree that we loved watching a guy who's acted like that get his ass beat like that.
Oh yeah, it was like a delicious caramel that just melted in your mouth.
Yeah.
I think the consensus is that nobody here thinks that Andrew Cuomo is a good dude. I think where we might have some disagreement is whether we agree with the wisdom of the anti-Cuomo vote consolidating on Mamdani.
So I understand your where you're kind of going with that. I mean, I'm guessing your thought is that Cuomo is an asshole, but he would know how to run the city in a productive manner, or I don't know, maybe be more productive and somewhat less corrupt, or I don't know what I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know Zoran has gotten a shit ton of criticism for having a very uplifting message, running a great campaign, and everybody being like, but he can't fucking do that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't want to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to start out by stating the obvious, which is that Mamdani ran a very competent communications operation. His campaign was just very well done from a comms perspective. He is charismatic. He hit all the right notes. He was very savvy in his co-optation or adoption. I don't want to imply that he's not sincere of the abundance YIMBY message to try and pick up those voters who were otherwise. I want to say these are some names that might not be familiar to people who aren't tuned into the race, but Zellner Myrie and Brad Lander were kind of the YIMBY abundance candidates.
Now you are saying YIMBY as in yes in my backyard.
Yes, in my backyard. People who are very in favor of loosening zoning regulations and allowing a lot more permissive private sector construction. Yeah. And Mamdani was really savvy about going on a lot of podcasts, adopting the language of that movement to try and become those candidates' second choice.
And I thought just one thing before, him walking through New York, that thing where he walked from one side of New York to the other. I thought that was really awesome. I mean, because he's young and he's vibrant, he can do that. He mixed it up with the residents of New York. Some people said, he was introducing them to some people. Some people, they were yelling shit at him. He was like, all right, this is New York,
Yeah, we're starting out with the positives here. He ran a really good campaign.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody can deny that or take that away from him.
Yeah, I agree. I think his campaign was probably, in terms of especially off-cycle elections, I don't think I've ever seen a better off-cycle election put together. I personally too think that it's really, I know we're going to talk about this later, so we'll, I'll save my. I don't want to waste all of my talking points here. So,
I mean, The one thing that I don't think any of us have really explicitly said is this race was not so much Andrew Cuomo's race to lose as it was one person's race to consolidate the vote against Cuomo and win. And, Zoran did that better than anyone else. But realistically speaking, if you went into this race thinking, oh, yeah, Andrew Cuomo is going to clean up because he's Andrew Cuomo, he was Gropey McNimby in a primary where the electorate was going to be majority woman and where there's a huge cost of living crisis. Those two factors alone meant that he was starting with a structural minority of the vote.
I mean, it doesn't help that he hasn't lived in New York City in 30 fucking years either. You know what I mean? You moved back there months before the primary. And I think I'm going to be honest with you, to get into the crux of this, I think that Dems have got to calm the fuck down about him winning. I'm sick of hearing all these national stories about a mayoral primary, but also you got to calm the fuck down because you can't spend the past 6 months from the election being we have to figure out how to build this coalition. And then once you find a candidate that pulls out infrequent voters, that pulls out new voters, that gives young people something to get excited about that our party desperately needs, then being oh no, fuck that guy. That's not how it works.
Chris, I don't want to. So yeah, he did that to an extent, but let's not lose sight of the fact that this was still a relatively low turnout Democratic primary.
In New York City
has closed primaries, so there weren't any independents weighing in this contest. So to the extent that we are pulling out infrequent voters and doing this and that, it's in the context of a low turnout Democratic primary.
So I guess the counter to that is that a lot of what he's talking about is wildly popular with independents. I think if you polled 100 independents and you go find them on the street, 99 of them are going to say, yeah, I don't give a shit if billionaires have to pay a little bit more so that people don't end up homeless in the most expensive place in the world.
I don't think that's going to be the wedge issue in the general election in the New York City mayoral race.
I do, especially when you're running against Adams, who let them raise rent, 3 times over his tenure?
Well, who has let them? Who is them
and
letting raise rent?
So when you talk about let them raise rent, you're talking about rent control. Almost everything in New York City is rent controlled, and that has to be done through his office. He let them do it.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think rent control should exist at all. So you're not convincing this. I mean, I can't vote in New York, but if I could, you're not convincing me with that argument.
So that is the other side of this, is not one of us here. None of our opinions should matter to anybody in New York. But what I will say is that that's also really easy to say when you don't pay $3,000 a month in rent.
Yeah, but
for a matchbox of an apartment.
Right.
The people who are in rent-controlled apartments don't pay $3,000 a month either. And the reason that some people do pay $3,000 a month is because there's a whole sector of the city that's rent-controlled, and it's taking those apartments out of the market. It is reducing the supply and hiking the price for everything else.
Sure, but where are you going to build more?
Everywhere.
No,
Get
what I'm
rid
saying
of exclusionary zoning.
What I'm saying though is
upzone everywhere.
Have you been to New York?
What?
Have you been to New York? Where are you going to slap another apartment building?
Most of Brooklyn, frankly.
Well,
I was going to say, have you been to New York? There are plenty of places that are 2, 3, 4-story buildings.
As soon as I said that, I was like, yeah, I gotta think about outside of New York proper.
Yeah.
Outside of New York City proper, sorry.
The other thing that is just kind of an aside, everybody talks about, we should take all, when we came out of COVID, we had all these empty buildings, people were working from home. And then, there's a whole economic realtor crisis, kind of real estate crisis, because all these companies have these giant brick and mortar buildings that they wanted people to sit in and do their work, and they wanted to do it at home. And everybody, a lot of people jump to the idea like, well, if we got all these empty buildings, let's build more apartments in them for people in these cities to just, we got this huge giant building, we got all this space, so let's just renovate it to make it apartments. Until they crunch the numbers, in a lot of instances, because of the way corporate buildings are set up, where like the bathrooms are on either side, and that's the only water and sewer hookups, it's almost more cost effective to demolish the building and build an apartment building there than it is to renovate an apartment building and put in apartments.
It's actually it's not almost Woods. It is.
Yeah, it's
like the reason why like those commercial properties. And sorry, I actually do know something about this because this is what I do. Although not with commercial properties for the reasons that we're going to get into here, but those buildings, when they bottomed out, you were seeing like office skyscrapers for $5 million in some markets. And when you look at what one of those buildings costs to construct, that's literally just putting a price tag on it because we have to say that we got something.
Yeah, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, like literally singular penny on the dollar for the construction cost. And it's not just the water sewer hookups, it's the electrical system, it's the elevator, it's the entire floor. Like every single floor you need to gut. But then you get into the issue of what's your usable square footage for an apartment when so much of it is away from windows. Like, so what do you actually have in the interior of that building? Oh, you have all of these rooms that have like no daylight. Great. So that's just fucking dead space now. It's like when Charlie Munger designed dorms for I forget which West Coast university, and some of them didn't have daylight at all. You can't put people in those structures. Yeah. And so it was a great thought, but yeah, it doesn't pencil out. It's really fucking stupid. Overall.
Yeah. I can do you one better and tell you that as a graduate student, all the professors' offices are on the outside of the buildings with nice big bay windows, and all the graduate students are on the inside living like trolls. So that's how that works out too.
And that's fine if that's your office. I mean, it's not great, but like you can slap a daylight in there and be fine.
Yeah.
I
don't have to sleep there.
Yeah. That's not suitable for a home, and A, and B, it doesn't actually meet the legal definition of a bedroom.
Oh, that's right. You do have to have a window for your bedroom.
And a closet.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I knew that. I forgot about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. The house we bought in Lexington was while I was in grad school was super hilarious because it had this one bedroom that was literally just you like walked through the hallway into the other hallway, and it was like I could fit like a desk and like some cabinets in there, but it was a bedroom.
Yeah.
So just kind of to circle us back to the thing we were talking about, though. I think generally speaking, people do need to calm the fuck down about New York City's mayoral election. First, because it's a political dead end for everyone who's ever held it.
Has anyone who has ever been mayor of New York City ever been president? Because I can't think of one.
It is a terminal office, Adam.
That is far too much cross-checking for me to
because
be able to give an answer there.
Like you can run for president from it, but by and large you don't succeed. And the reason
why tell us ChatGPT is going to tell us.
I think by and large might be understating it. I don't think there has ever been a mayor of New York City who has been president.
The reason why it's a terminal office is because the only thing you can do in New York City as mayor is fail to balance an incredibly messy coalition and eventually piss everyone off.
Yeah.
And then your career ends. And that's the end.
So here are some notable examples of people who were mayor of New York City and ran for president. So you had Rudy Giuliani, Life's been tough for Rudy. Let's maybe not.
Notably not the president.
What's that?
I said notably not the president.
Yeah.
Notably not a lawyer anymore either.
Yeah. Notably lucky just to not be in jail yet.
Yet being the operative word. And Elizabeth Warren, I don't even know what to call him. We're gonna have to cut that part because I'm not calling him what I was about to call him by accident. But we'll retake on that one. And then also you may remember him because Elizabeth Warren pummeled the shit out of him in a debate, Mike Bloomberg. So those are the only two notable ones that ChatGPT really kicked back.
Hey, let's not forget Bill de Blasio's campaign.
Oh God, that was a thing for a minute, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that Mike Bloomberg is probably the most well-regarded mayor of New York in my lifetime is really saying something.
Yeah. But I think if you're getting into de Blasio, those are like people that run for 40 minutes and are immediately wiped out.
So reason number one, people really shouldn't get bent out of shape over it, is it's a dead end politically for everyone who holds it. Reason number two is this is a D+35 primary electorate. It is not an accurate. Well, it's the primary electorate in a D+35 city.
Yeah.
So this is not reflective of a direction that the party overall is going so much as it's reflective of what the commie corridor thinks. And we already knew that. The reasons why it could be a problem is this is a person who's gone on the record supporting people in prison for raising money for Hamas. He rapped in support of the Holy Land Five, who, of course, are in federal prison for raising $12.5 million for Hamas. That's a thing they did. That's a thing he would have known they did because that's what they were in prison for. That's what they were convicted of. And it was something that he rapped in favor of. So in that sense, he is probably a poor national spokesperson for the party, regardless of his ability to communicate with audiences in New York. He's also probably a poor spokesperson for the National Party because he's not actually a Democrat. He doesn't identify as a Democrat. He ran in the primary, but he's a member of DSA, and he's in their caucus legislatively. So, this is going to be an interesting general election, which he will ultimately win because Eric Adams is Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo is Andrew Cuomo, and 1 in 6 New Yorkers are Republicans. But
just to kind of add to that, he might. He's so for anyone listening or watching who doesn't know, New York's got this really fucked up system where you can be the candidate from multiple parties at the same time. So just because he lost the Democratic primary, I think he stood up the way that all these guys get around it, so they're never actually technically out of it, is they stand up their own third party. I forget what Cuomo's is called, but he's still technically their nominee and will be on the general election ballot unless he officially concedes. Mm-hmm. But Charles is 100% right. The math doesn't work for anybody to actually beat a Democrat in New York. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like the math doesn't math. But I will also say too, as we're talking about an election, before the 2 years, almost we'll call it 16 months before the midterms. Voters got a short memory, man. Especially when you got people out there getting ready to strip $1 trillion out of Medicaid, getting ready to greatly reduce SNAP benefits. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to roll the dice with the guy who wants to tax billionaires a little bit more over just Republican light when they're getting ready to make everybody's life miserable. Well, more.
Hey, man, Eric Adams is running a strong campaign against rats. I don't think many people are voting for the rats.
Yeah. I don't think, from what I've heard, and the news shows that I listen to during the day, I don't think anybody really has. And I think when when Eric Adams, won, I think people immediately leaped to like, oh, he could be a national candidate, and I don't think anybody's leaping to that. Yeah, I know. I heard those comments too, and I thought, okay, whatever. But nobody's really talking about Zoran being a national candidate. It's more like they want to implant what Zoran did in New York in other places, which I agree will help out. Like what Chris was saying, talk about what people are into. Talk about what people. Hold on. Talk about what people are into. Talk about what people want to, want to hear. Inspire enthusiasm or anything. But that campaign won't work in Wisconsin. That you can't just cookie cutter it everywhere. It'll have to be changed, of course, to fit the state or area which you're running.
Well, and I think that raises a really interesting point too. Of if we always talk about we have to be like we have to have a 50 state strategy. You can't compete in every state the same way. You can't judge what's going to work. You know what I mean? Like that's what's working in New York. Great. Let it work. Let's move on. You know what I mean? Like you've got every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's ever ran for political office has a take about who they think the mayor of New York should be. None of them fucking live in New York. Like, and here's the last thing I'll say about this. They tried to make Nancy Pelosi the boogeyman. They put her in thousands of ads all over the country, the exact same way they're going to try and do to Zoran, and it didn't fucking work. It hasn't worked since 2016, and they keep running that playbook. So let them eat up their ad time. Let them say, hey, this party wants to tax billionaires, or hey, this party wants to make sure you don't live in a fucking cardboard box on the street. I'll wear it. I'll wear it. Let's run those ads, because I like that a whole lot better than, hey, this guy voted to cut what are they up to? $983 billion out of Medicaid.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one of the reasons that nobody's talking about Zoran Mamdani as a national candidate is because he is constitutionally ineligible to run for president. He was not.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. That's a good point too.
I mean, a couple people who did a Google were like, "Oh, okay, well, whatever." But yeah.
You like how there's only one person on this call who even brought up that even if he was being brought up as a national figure,
it's not a deal. Well, later when we get to, I've got a factoid. I've got to look up while you guys are discussing some things. But there's you actually have to play by the rules sometimes. So okay, so I think we can move off of this topic. We've said our piece. Unless Adam would like to say one more thing. I know we cut you off twice. I was going to try to cut you off.
My bad. Sorry.
I was going to cut you off for a third time just for shits and giggles. But you good?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about the New York. I don't have anything else to say about a mayoral race I can't vote in.
Exactly. When you mentioned about every Tom, Dick, and Harry that has ever done anything in politics has a take on who should be mayor of New York. The thing that popped in my head is like, well, I'm talking to three of them.
That's a good point. Yeah. Actually. We've exchanged quite a bit of dialogue about this back and forth.
So which one of us is Tom, which one's Dick, and which one's Harry?
Well, I've been called a dick a lot, so you can just wear that one.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I have a question that I need to ask Chris, and he's gonna lead us off in our next topic, which is underrated movies and why. You're gonna defend an underrated movie. Chris, you're the first on the list here. So what's your take?
Yeah. So this is it's also kind of a fun transition from talking about like the Big Apple to talking about movies. But yeah, I was watching movies with my kids over the weekend, and I was like, man, this is really such an underrated movie. And the movie was Heavyweights, that like 90s Disney slap comedy that's got like Ben Stiller buys a fat camp.
Wait, who thinks Heavyweights isn't a good movie?
No. It's not well, yeah. I'm pretty sure political activists will have a take on that pretty soon too. But it's more that like when you're looking for a movie to watch, and like nobody ever thinks about like 90s comedies like that anymore. And it's like it's hands down it's become like one of my favorite movies the more that I've watched it over the years. Just because it's so fucking funny. So that's it. I don't really have anything to defend it on. I don't really have anything. We don't think we have to defend these movies per se, but I do think that it's a really underrated movie in that, like, when people talk about Ben Stiller's movies and, nobody even brings that up anymore.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot that he was in that. I remember the movie, but when you mentioned, I had to Google it here to make sure you weren't lying to my face here. Yeah, that's a solid one. That's a solid one.
Oh yeah, no, Heavyweights is great.
Yeah.
Oh, so fucking funny.
I mean, it's right up there with, and I wouldn't say this is an underrated movie because it's a classic, but it's like Sandlot.
Yeah.
You know?
I ironically watched that
tier.
this weekend.
Same tier.
Yeah, same tier. That was like the go-to when I was in school, and the teacher wanted to just piss off for a day and like roll in the big VCR and TV that was strapped down. Sandlot was a good one. Yeah. Adam, Charles, anybody want to go next?
All right. Underrated movie. One that I watch at least twice a year. It was a box office flop, but hot damn is it a good movie, and I cannot get over how good of a movie it is, despite the fact that it is widely panned. Going with the extended edition, the theatrical release, I see some criticisms of, but Kingdom of Heaven, 2005, Ridley Scott movie. Great movie.
Wow.
One of Orlando Bloom's best performances, I think. Also, minor role by Liam Neeson, minor role by Ed Norton. Still
okay.
In every respect.
Yes. I was in my head I was confusing this with my kind of an Iraq war movie that was filmed named similar, but no, I've seen this. This is good.
No. Not a lot of Crusades movies. I think there should be more. I think it's unexplored fertile ground, but
there's a reason we probably don't make a lot of those movies nowadays.
Yeah, because people are fucking cowards. You could write great movies about the Crusades that are written from every perspective, but nobody does because they're fucking cowards.
Yeah. Well, that could be a thought.
That is a take.
Yeah, that's a take. When you say great movies about the Crusades that come from every point of view, the only thing that comes to my mind, and this is so dates me, is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner.
I thought you were gonna say the 6 hour long Saladin movie that was the Egyptian movie from the 1950s.
No, I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one as of late. But no, that's a movie that I would see on like YouTube or Tubi or something late at night. And my show that I just watched, like I'd gotten up to make myself a drink, sat down and hit play on the show I was watching, whatever drama is going on, Silo or whatever, and then found out I got 3 minutes left in the show. So now I've got a whole drink and no show, and I'm just on Hulu. And I'm like, well, what the fuck else we got up here? Oh hell yeah, I'll watch that. Yeah, we'll watch 20 minutes of that while I finish this drink and go to bed. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a good one. Charles?
So I only saw this agenda item like under an hour ago. Because I've been driving. I'm not actually a huge movie person. In fact, I can't think of the last time I actually went to the theater to see a movie. Much less intentionally watched a new one. So I'm just going to answer the question I'd prefer to have been asked.
This is very debate prep here.
Which is, what is a movie that more people should watch?
Hey, I'll take that.
And the answer to that is Kind Hearts and Coronets.
The hell is that?
I'm Googling it right now.
You guys are getting a very deep cut.
It's a 1949.
It is a dark
thriller
starring Alec Guinness, who plays 7 different roles, all of whom are murdered.
Damn.
As
Bro couldn't catch a break.
As the disinherited heir to a British noble family, goes about seeking revenge for his mother who died in poverty by killing everyone ahead of him in the line of succession. It is absolutely hilarious. It features a love triangle, lots of great understatement, and it is just a truly excellent send off for an era better left forgotten. The title comes from a couplet in a poem from Lord Tennyson. Kind hearts are more than coronets, and simple faith than Norman blood. And there is a lot of Norman blood that gets spilled, guys. Let me tell you.
I have no context of this movie, so
I'm afraid to even ask this, but where the fuck does that stream?
1 second.
So I think you can get it on Amazon.
You can watch it on Tubi. Yeah, Tubi, it looks like.
Oh, nice. Tubi's free too.
Yeah, so, Tubi's free.
Okay,
so as I would expect television from the 1940s.
Yeah. It is one of it is did any of you watch Dr. Strangelove?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you watch Dr. Strangelove and you enjoyed it, you will fucking love this movie.
I'm game.
Okay, so what I want to comment on is your excuse that you hadn't read the agenda until shortly before the show. I didn't read the agenda at all. I'm just fucking shooting from the hip here, man. I don't know what your excuse is.
Hot takes, man. The internet's all about
I didn't realize that I knew anybody who watched 1940s movies regularly.
Has anybody seen the movie? I think it's called Freaks. It's like 1929.
No, but I have seen Metropolis. Does that count?
That's close. 1932. Yeah, I was at a conference with a buddy. We were sharing a room at a physics conference, and I was like, "Hey," and we went out to the liquor store, got some beers and stuff. He's like, "Hey, you want to watch a movie?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So he throws on this thing. It's about like circus performers, freaks from 1932. They're like staged a series. It's dark and it's like dark comedy as well. But yeah, I was not ready for that shit.
All right, well, you guys keep talking about whatever you're talking about. I'm going to go make another martini. I'll be right back.
You do that. You're not going to hear my hot take. So I guess what I'll do. Event Horizon, 1997's sci-fi classic, Event Horizon. I think it's an underrated movie because it was a genuinely creepy sci-fi movie that was released. Had a great performance by Sam Neill. Lawrence Fishburne was in it. The premises of the movie is like there's this new space age, next generation ship that's supposed to be able to travel faster than light from point A to point B through a wormhole. They fuck it up, and the ship apparently disappears for several years. And when it pops back out, you learn that the ship has spent time in hell and is possessed. So there's a lot of really great images, kind of imagery of like they're in the ship kind of wants to consume them. They're all slowly driven mad. It was really great. The original cut of the movie was like almost a NC-17 movie because of the gore. The initial test audiences were like, "This is not good. You can't show this," and they dialed it back. But still, a legitimate creepy sci-fi movie that holds up today. Like holds up today. You can watch it. There's not you don't see any like bad special effects that make you think that it was it was done in a hurry or anything. A lot of practical effects. And the reason it was on my mind when Chris sent out this agenda was we just found out that we're going to get a prequel comic from IDW of the because the movie shows the ship disappears and comes back and the crew's gone, and then the rescue team is the one they're supposed to salvage the ship. They're the one that of course all the horror happens to. The prequel comic is going to follow like what happened to the actual crew as it went to hell and back, and like. So that's just silly enough for me to be, 2 thumbs way up. Listen, I'm here for it. My bullshit threshold is really high when it comes to like, literature and movies sometimes. So yeah, that would be my pick. That would be my pick.
Yeah.
Like I'm not somebody who sits through a Marvel movie and it's like, oh, this makes no sense. Like, fuck it, let's do it.
So, oh God, what was I going to say? So it's wild how different our movie tastes are all over the board.
Mm-hmm. That was very like 4 points of the.
Yeah, I mean, you could have given me 100 guesses as to what Charles's pick was going to be, and I would have never. Well, I mean, mostly because I had no fucking idea what it was until he explained it.
I wouldn't have ballparked like the genre of movie.
No.
Yeah.
No,
You guys
but
didn't see me as a dark comedy guy?
I can see that.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
didn't see a 1940s dark comedy guy.
Yeah.
I
think I think I might have been talking to my brother about this, but like I was talking to my boss during a late night beam time, and he's the kind of guy that's like very like I'm gonna go on a hike now. Like he looks like at any minute he could just go on a hike. You know, he dresses that way. He takes his mountain bike during lunch, and we were talking about like music styles, and he was like, guess my music style, preferred music style, and I was like, well, if I'm just gonna just go, you know, what I know about you, the way you live your life, I'm gonna say like jam bands, you know, like Fish and shit like that. And he was like, no, technical death metal. I was like, fuck me, like where'd that come from? You know, so you never know.
Technical death metal.
Yeah, like high speed death metal.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild.
And of course, my brother, who's just into that high like quick bluegrass type stuff. He's like, oh, there's such a cross. I was like, no, there's not. Shut up. I don't want to hear for this. I don't need to be drawn into this world, Jay. But yeah, that's the thing. So you never know. Never know.
Yeah.
And Charles, I hear that people have dark senses of humor and enjoy dark comedies. And they're more creative people.
That's definitely for sure. Charles is definitely more creative than all of us here. Well,
I am wearing the shirt for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I would like to point out that Adam is still not back, which if you're going to do this, you have the mixings for the martini right here. It's just
or you just make two before the show starts.
Yeah,
I mean, it would appear that this is a cup for one of my children, but it is not. My wife and I specifically bought my wife bought this one specifically for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's like a double-sized kids cup, but it's just a bunch of TIE fighters and X-Wings. So,
gotta stay hydrated.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I'm gonna have a little whiskey for the first time in a good long while, because I just drove for 10 hours. So
there you go. God knows I have no stones to throw in that arena.
No, I would never. 10 hours is just God.
I've got my hard line on driving is 5 hours. If it's more than 5 hours, I'm flying.
Mine used to be about 5 or 6, but then once I had kids, it's now like the 8 or 9 range. I think is probably the threshold for driving if I do it through the night. Like we drove to we have family in Atlanta. We drove down there and we left at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and got there at like 1 or 2 in the morning. Oddly enough, still always traffic.
Yeah.
But so
if
I'm
by myself, I think I can do like 6 to 8 is like my max. You know, by myself, because every 2 hours get out, use the bathroom, get something to drink. When I'm with my wife, we're pretty good at like 8 to 10 solid, maybe more than that, because we'll switch like clockwork. And she can't sleep in the car. I can, so it's kind of harder on her than it is me.
Once in my life, I drove 9 hours. I will never do that again.
Like 9 hours one way or 9 hours round trip?
9 hours one way.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough one.
I did 12 hours in one day, and like Adam, I'll never do it again because I drove. I had a doctor's appointment. I was in Illinois. I had a doctor's appointment in Lexington, Kentucky for the kidney transplant, and I really didn't want to have to take like a 2-day trip. So I told him, I was like, I need this scheduled at like 2 p.m. and you guys need to be a little bit okay with 2:30, whatever. And so I got up at the ass crack of dawn, drove 6 hours in, spent an hour and a half with this doctor's appointment, and drove 6 hours back, and got home at like 11 p.m. and it sucked. I shouldn't have done it. I really shouldn't. Like the last 2 hours, I should not have been driving.
Yeah, that's rough. So,
all right.
Cheers.
Adam,
all right,
and the rest of y'all.
I'm not gonna. I have water. I'm not gonna toast that lot. So I was gonna say we do have one other newsworthy item that I wanted to talk about this week. I know we usually only try and tackle one thing, but there's just been so much confusion centered around what is going on with the birthright citizenship case that the Supreme Court decided on Friday during their opinion dump. So I think we should probably set some context here, because there are probably people who also don't know what this is either. and Adam, can you explain what a nationwide injunction is for anybody who doesn't know?
So if a plaintiff is challenged, a plaintiff, the person filing the lawsuit, is seeking to have a law or executive action or something out of a federal or state government ruled unconstitutional or otherwise put a stop to, they will often ask for what's called a preliminary injunction, which is where a judge says this law is on hold during the pendency of this litigation. And they do that when there is a risk of and it's a legal term, of irreparable harm if this law is allowed to go into effect while the litigation is ongoing until we actually get to a final resolution of this lawsuit. And when it's a nationwide injunction, that is when it's been in the past that a federal district judge can issue these rulings where the district court says, this preliminary injunction that puts this law on hold during the pendency of this litigation is going to apply not just in my jurisdiction, but nationwide.
Perfect. Yeah. So I don't want to talk a whole ton about this because I feel like everybody and their third cousin has had a lot to say. But basically, what the Supreme Court ruled, for anyone who didn't really pay close attention, is they didn't touch the birthright citizenship question that was brought before the court. All that they said is that nationwide injunctions are not longer constitutional, but are not constitutional. Which
Chris, I just threw the ruling into ChatGPT. You want me to give you a 4-point bullet point of what the ruling was?
There it is.
Sure, because I didn't actually read it. So
yeah. Okay. So the majority opinion: federal courts lack equitability authority under the Judicial Act of 1789 to issue universal injunctions. Reasonings: the Judiciary Act authorizes only equitable remedies where the traditionally available in English and American equity courts at the time of the nation's founding. There's no historical analog for universal injunctions in traditional equity. I'm sorry, I keep saying equality. Remedies in equity have always been party-specific. Universal injunctions benefit non-parties and sidestep procedural safeguards like those in Rule 23, class actions. Universal injunctions improperly extend judicial power and create systematic issues like forum shopping and legal confusion. The court granted partial stays of the lower court's injunction. States limited them to protection only plaintiffs withstanding. Okay, so let me restate that. The court granted partial stays of the lower court's injunctions, limiting them to only protect those only the plaintiffs withstanding.
Yeah. So I think that the biggest thing that I want to point out here, because I see all my Republican friends that they are just all about this, right? They're like, oh, well, look at that. You can't, a judge in California can't stop what Trump wants to do, or a judge in New York can't stop what Trump wants to do. Well, I got news for you. The next time there's a Democrat president, the judges in Texas aren't going to be able to stop what Democrat presidents want to do.
Which is exactly what they did.
What they did. Yeah. Everything that Biden wanted to do that people got up in arms that he didn't do, like student loan reform, big pieces of his agenda were all stopped by district court by district court judges in places like Texas and Idaho. And I mean, for fuck's sake, the guy who unilaterally for a while put on pause mifepristone was a district court judge in Texas. So I mean, this is nothing for conservatives to celebrate either. I think that the only people really celebrating here are going to be class action lawyers.
Well, I want to put a little bit of an asterisk on what you said there. Just not that it takes away from the consequentiality of the ruling, but that I want to caveat the implication that the judges in the federal judges in blue states are necessarily liberal and the judges in red states are necessarily conservative.
Well, right.
There are Clinton and Obama and Biden appointees in almost every state in this country, just like there are Reagan and Bush and Trump appointees in almost every state in this country. Just because a federal judge is sitting in a district court in New York or in Texas or Tennessee or California doesn't necessarily say anything about their leanings in that respect.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I should have just used the term that I think every lawyer uses in venue shopping, really, and finding a judge that will agree with you.
Well, it is true that the judge that conservative activist groups like to forum shop to is in Texas.
Yeah, that's the one that I kept using because I knew that he was the one that put the injunction on mifepristone. But so regardless, I just thought that it was important that we did bring that up. That for any conservative listeners out there, that this isn't anything for you to be celebrating either. So
one thing that and Chris, you mentioned it. This was a ruling procedurally on how much Trump's executive orders could be taken action on and things like that. The legal aspect of it. We didn't touch birthright citizenship at all. And I know Adam, you've shared some ideas that you want people to have to go back to 1784 or whatever the fuck the date is. If you want to prove that you're a citizen, what did you call it, heritage citizenship?
No, that was me making fun of people who use the term
right.
American. But so there is this term that banters around conservative Twitter where people refer to themselves as heritage Americans, which means it basically means white American, like somebody who is not a descendant of recent immigrants. Well, the thing is that most people who refer to themselves as heritage Americans are also the descendants of 20th or 19th century immigrants. And I gotta say, as a colonial stock wasp, you guys can shut the fuck up.
I mean, I will. I think we can do one better there. That all 4 of Donald Trump's children, or however many he has, were born to immigrants. They're literally birthright citizens.
Well, okay.
Well, no, because they do have one American citizen parent.
Right. Well, that's the point. That's the point I wanted to bring up. These Republican fucks need to be very careful how they write this law that eradicates birthright citizenship, because I think they could easily trip over their own idiocy and make it so we can abort Trump's children. And I'm here.
There was somebody on where this conversation that Woods was referring to here was where I came across somebody that I subsequently got into an argument with on Twitter, who was trying to argue that in order to vote, you should have to produce evidence that you have at least 4 direct ancestors who could vote in the 1788 presidential election, which is the first time George Washington was elected. And the irony of that is that if we were to adopt that system, Democrats would put up Saddam Hussein numbers, because the 2 largest voting blocks would be college-educated New Englanders and Black Southerners.
Well, there you go.
The math, yeah.
The math on that one.
Yeah, I can just see the Chip Roy being like, you got to prove that your mother and your father and their grandparents were all citizens. Boom, and then the Trumps will be like, shit. Yeah.
Anyways, so before we get too chronically online with that one.
Yeah. No, that's
sorry. I referenced Twitter. I think this is my first deserved. Hey man, that's crazy. You catch the game last night.
Yeah.
Ironically, I think that's our next segment, isn't it? Hey man, did you catch the game last night? Well, actually, it's been a while since we've done one of these. But do you want to explain what that is, Adam?
Do I want to explain what?
When we
joke around? We'll skip over grilled foods real quick.
Oh, okay. I forgot about grilled foods. We can't.
Yeah, we have. Right, okay, right. So we have several times on this show said the phrase, "Hey man, that's crazy. Did you catch the game last night?" And that is the general admonition that you have just said something that is too online, because and the origin of that is that we're suggesting that you just said something that if you said that to someone who does not spend a lot of time on the internet, they wouldn't have any idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So And that's a lot of things. And if you are not spending a significant amount of your time talking to people who don't spend a lot of time on the internet, you should be. And you should be doing your best to be talking about things that won't get you the response, hey man, that's crazy. Did you catch the game last night?
Yeah.
And the crux of this is I am not a like game last night watcher. Like, you know, I have
You're the only one on this podcast, Woods.
Exactly right. I have teams I like to follow. If I catch the game, great. If I don't, I'm like, all right, we'll just check the scores, you know, because I'm a scientist. I just care about the fucking numbers, you know, at a certain point.
Speaking of numbers, Woods, I just there's some numbers.
Come on, let's have it.
22-10.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
See that's why he doesn't watch the games.
Right. No, don't get me wrong. I will sit down with anybody and have, you know, 6 to 8 beers and watch a basketball game or a football game, and everything. I just don't go out of my way a lot of times. So and the funny thing is even though I'm not the watch the game last night, I'm not on Twitter a lot. So like I'm somehow like loopholed out of this most of the time. I know you guys will bust me eventually because I'll get into some like weird shitty part of the internet. You'll be like, that's way too online, Woods. So fair game for everybody.
I don't know if we can actually hit you for that because, like, can you really hit somebody for being too online if you're talking about the dark web since it's not technically the internet?
Well, yeah, I don't think I go that far. It's just like really shitty parts like the InfoWars and Charlie Kirk, like
the
things that we wish were on the dark web.
Yeah, it's the things that should be on the dark web. Good point. Very good point.
Hey,
it's not the dark web.
Did you catch the segment called "What's the Mount Rushmore of Grilled Foods"? We're building one.
Yeah. We kind of tripped over that, but we can go back to totally going to go back to it.
Yeah.
So that's the point of us asking each other that. The one we skipped over a little bit is we want to build the Mount Rushmore of grilled foods. So we had everybody think about it. I know Adam hasn't even read the thing, but it's not a hard question. It's really not a hard question. We're not going to ask for references here, you know? So like, let's go around. Like, what is your best thing to grill and consume at a tailgate? And I can even wrap this up with the best hamburger I've ever had that has like a holistic, and I can tell you the day and like year it happened.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of whether I think this might be Lincoln. If this were to replace someone on Mount Rushmore, it might be Lincoln, I think. But for me is beef ribs. I fucking love beef ribs. And I love pork ribs too, don't get me wrong. But my wife's not a big fan of pork ribs, so we started doing beef ribs a few years ago. And Jesus Christ, are they good? They're big enough that it's like you can consider it like a good sized portion of a meal. And they cook so nicely. 10 out of 10.
I get with some beef ribs. I'm generally not a rib guy because I'm that toddler that doesn't like to eat shit right off the bone. But yeah, I can still get down with some ribs. All right, let's go clockwise in the way I'm seeing this. Charles, what's up?
Oh man, it's a tough one. So
hot takes.
We're talking grilling, not smoking.
Whatever.
But we're talking specifically. Yeah, if you cook it outside of your house using fire, I think is how we can describe it, or how we
because grilling and smoking are very different things.
Yeah,
I disagree with that.
No,
guys, we're doing the battle royale next weekend. We can have these throwdowns.
Yeah, add that to the battle royale section. Yeah,
I just saw your two faces square, and I was like, God, I don't have time for this shit tonight.
So I am a sucker for thick cut Vidalia onions, low and slow on a grill. Nice. Because you get this really sweet, not quite crunchy, with a bit of char, and they are just the perfect addition to literally every food. They're not like they're not the cleanup hitter in anybody's grilling repertoire, but they are a very solid role player. They're a great leadoff. They're a great leadoff hitter.
They're one hell of a game day player.
Yeah. Now, are we?
They're the Teddy. They're the Teddy Roosevelt of.
Now, are we slicing these in like to go on a burger? Or are we chopping them up, or does it doesn't matter?
It does not matter.
There you go.
You can, if you can't find a way to mix them with whatever it is else that you grilled as your main, you just kind of suck at food or are allergic to onions.
Okay.
All right.
We have a guest. What's the guest name?
Oh, this is Winston. He made his.
Winston.
He decided he was going to jump up a little bit, so I figured we might as well bring him up all the way.
Yeah. All right, Adam, what's on deck on your grill?
All right, so this is the basis of me almost starting a fight earlier when I wasn't allowed to. But
you can fight later. We just don't have it in the rundown for today.
Yeah,
fish. And the fish that I use for this purpose is trout. After I have cooked the main, the entree, the main appearance here, the grill's cooled down a little bit. I can't quite cook chicken on it anymore. I will close the stack, throw a tray of trout on the top shelf, close the lid, and just leave it there until the coals go out. And it is one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life.
I will second that. That is technically grilling, not smoking, but I do that with salmon.
Oh, I was going to say I've had salmon cooked exactly that same way, and it was delicious too.
Yeah.
I can't fault you there.
Adam, you know what you need to do? You need to get some of that horseradish mustard and put that over top when you're doing it.
All right.
What about you, Woods? Your turn.
I'm going to have to go with a pretty traditional thing. It's just brats because I think you can do them. There's not a way you can cook a brat that pisses me off and it's not going to be good.
Well,
I've had them, I grill them. My wife and I, whenever we grill out, I usually pair, because I'm not a big fish guy, so I'm not like usually eating salmon with her. So like I'll grill her salmon and I'll grill me brats. And like you can either boil them first in some beer and butter to make sure they're cooked all the way through, and then just give them a singe, or you can give them a singe first, and then like while you're singeing them, leave the butter and the onions and peppers and stuff right there, get it boiling, and then put them in there to make sure they cook all the way through. I've had them smoked. At one of our tailgates, one of our buddies smoked like a shit ton of brats, and for some reason he diced them up and left them out on the table, and nobody was like into him but me, and I just kind of sat there, just like I was like talking to people in a mid-sentence, just like a handful of bratwurst, I just put it in my mouth. Yeah, it's just like
some of the creations with brats have been great too. Like some of the like how I've seen like they've done like chorizo brats now and like all kinds of like mix-ins for them. It's been dope.
Yeah, put it on a bun. I'll eat it like a hot dog. Dice it up. It doesn't matter to me. It's always a good one.
That's a good one.
And I can close out grilling because we're getting into grilling season. I can tell you a story. The best hamburger I've ever had that was grilled on a charcoal grill. It was July 4th, 2009. So my buddy's house. He and his wife had just bought the house. It was a Saturday. We had gone hard on Friday, and I was hungover as fuck. And so we showed up to this guy's house, and he grilled me a burger. And I had about 6 or 7 beers, and I had this burger. It just hit the spot. So I had another burger and a hot dog. And I almost fell asleep in one of his like chairs on his porch. I was just so zenned out. It was like the perfect, you guys have that meal. It's like the perfect thing you needed. Mm-hmm. And I had that. It was one of those nights like I dropped my buddy off and went home. Went to bed 9:30. Just slept for like 13 hours. I think it was amazing.
I'm also jealous of going to bed at 9:30.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
At the time, I wasn't even married, so no kids, no nothing. It was just me in an apartment and snoozing. So anybody else want to talk about something to grill, or do we want to move on to our last? We have two more things on the agenda. We can knock them out. The last thing is going to be pretty quick, but Chris, this was what you put on the agenda.
Yeah. So we go round robin here with, hey man, did you catch that game last night? We could not let this week go without pointing out how fucking weird this daddy's home trend is with Trump. And like it blows my mind that you would have, and I'm gonna use the term personal life, that you would have that vanilla of a personal life that you don't realize what that song is about when you were unironically using it. Because I promise you, anyone who has shared that stupid video that they posted, or that I've seen people buying shirts, like, come on, guys, like that, like, go touch some grass on that one. That's fucking weird. I'm sorry.
They've been calling him daddy for like 8 years.
No, I get it, but now they're using the song by Usher, "Daddy's Home," which is pretty much on everyone's sex playlist.
Okay, one, did not know that. Two, I had no clue that this was going on. And
people have sex playlists. Like, that's a thing.
Well, that's a topic for another.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yes.
Is that a battle royale topic as well? I don't know.
No, I don't know if that's a battle royale topic.
Just
their simple existence.
If you type in "Daddy's Home Trump," the number and I don't want to click on them right now. Like, it's just,
I wouldn't.
It's odd.
And like, I get that they've been calling him that for a while, but like, to unironically use that song, that's just weird.
So actually,
did this pop
weird,
off?
But
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
Okay, so yeah, Chris, it's really fucking weird, but so is like a grown man calling another grown man daddy.
Yeah,
like
that in and of itself is kind of weird.
And
I think we can blame that to an extent on Ruda not having English as a first language.
Well,
you're talking about the
NATO thing.
No, I'm talking Charles is right. They've been doing this shit since before then.
Oh, yeah, well, that's when I was introduced to it.
Yeah.
yeah. This is like and I mean, even Daddy's Home, they had a GIF that was really popular on Discord for a while when he got reelected, but they've been calling him daddy on certain corners of the internet since at least 2015, 2016.
That's exactly what I was talking about right there.
And
I was searching.
Like, I don't see the Usher Daddy's Home outgrowth of today as substantially different than that, because 9 years ago it was also pretty fucking weird and vaguely sexual.
Well, that's horrific. Go on.
Yeah, it's horrific that this happened. When you guys told me about this, like, to Charles's point, it has been really weird and semi-sexual for the entire time he's been in politics, because you've got the oh god, what's that guy's name that draws the like muscular Trump caricatures?
Oh
what's his name?
We all know what we're talking about here. I'll find one.
Yeah,
there's a dude up the road who had a picture. It wasn't even a picture. It was a muscular Trump riding a tank with like laser beams and tigers and all kinds of weird shit.
That's crazy. Did you catch the game last night?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I had a neighbor who had a billboard of like shirtless buff Trump standing on a tank in his front yard during the 2020 election.
Damn, that's crazy. Did you catch the game?
Yeah. Though I will say, to his credit, he took it down after the election, and the Trump flag that he had on his flagpole, he took down after January 6th.
Ben Garrison. That's who.
Ben Garrison, yes.
Ben Garrison, thank you.
Right.
I brought this.
I mean, at least he took him down.
Yeah, I shared this. I'm not going to play the video. I'm not going to play the audio. I had not known anything about this. And to Charles's point, they draw Trump as this big, strong, sexy man all the time. And it's very weird. It's very psychosexual. But when you brought up this, Daddy's Home thing, them calling him daddy, apparently this popped off because of the NATO summit. But like when I Googled it and clicked on this is the White House page.
Right.
This is not some crank that calls himself Trump 4747 or something. This is the White House's page that shared.
Well, that's who they hired to handle their media and their social media.
If you told me Cat Turd was handling the White House YouTube page, I could not prove you wrong.
Cat Turd is too much of a cuck for these people.
It's wild. Let me figure out how to remove this. There we go.
Yeah, but no, that's my. I don't know if anybody else has one, but that's my. Hey man, did you? That's crazy. Did you catch the game last night? That's mine for the week.
I think that's a good one to put the pin in that. That one's shitty. God, that's shitty. The other thing that we wanted to talk on, and Chris, this is also yours. We want to touch on before we end the month of June. June is men's mental health month.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, you're listening or watching a podcast with four dudes. But so before June ended, I did just want to do a plug for the simple fact that mental health care is just simply healthcare. You don't need the word mental in front of it. It's just healthcare. So just some statistics for any dudes that are listening to this that might be going through some shit that feel like they're kind of alone there. Men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women, and middle-aged men account for 70% of all of the suicides in the United States. So men are equally, if not more likely to become clinically depressed. And it's because we've created and not seek treatment. And it's just entirely because we've created this stigma that if you get help for, anxiety, depression, etc., that you're somehow weak. So don't be a dumbass. Just go get the help that you need.
Okay. So alternatively, if you're really susceptible to allegations of weakness, killing yourself is a real bitch move, and you're a cuck if you do it.
There you go.
Yeah. And, just like on that subject, in 2022, I was having kind of a shitty time. And so I filled out like that stupid fucking mental health questionnaire that they have. And my doctor was like, you like have like depression according to this, and also generalized anxiety disorder. Have you gotten any treatment for that? I was like, that's like my normal, dude. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. So that I went, did my treatment, and like just fucking do it. You'll be happier when you're done. You'll at least when you've dealt with it and started addressing it.
And it's a thing that you need to talk about with other people. Yeah, I can speak to my own problems in 2020. I was trying to finish my PhD thesis right when COVID shut everything down. So I spent 12 hours a day in this little, not this office. This is the bigger room. This is our catch-all room. But I was in my little office over here at the other side of the house all day by myself in a laptop trying to create a thesis. It's just me and my wife in the house. My thesis advisor kind of went dark, wasn't answering any questions. So like I felt like I was doing this all by myself, and it really did affect me. It got to a point where like I would wake up like nauseous and sick to my stomach, and I would go take walks, try to get outside the house, try to get a better mind state. But it got to a point where, and I can actually pinpoint this for everybody. Whenever the first Joker movie was out, my wife and I really liked it, but when we went to go see it, so yeah, that'd have been late 2019. When we went to go see it, I remember very clearly the whole anarchy nihilist shit about Joker. That doesn't bother me. I got through that shit in my 20s. But like, I remember sitting in a movie theater and seeing that black bar below the screen, and wanted to just go there. I didn't really have any thoughts about hurting myself, but I really just wanted everything to just go, just stop, just my mind stopped. The stress I was under stopped, and so I went and talked to my doctor as well, and he recommended that I, talk to somebody, increase exercise and diet, just get to be a healthier person, and keep talking about it. And I had to talk about it with my wife too, because I tried to hide it from her because I didn't want to stress her out. And even she knew that there were days that I came home that I felt good or felt bad. And that wasn't like it wasn't a hungover, not hungover feeling. Like she could tell that I was in a good mood or a bad mood. I just needed to be left alone. And so, yeah, you got to talk through it. You got to get help. And I'm 100% better today than I was in 2019. Yeah. Everybody has shitty days, but
right.
It's making sure that you don't line up all the shitty days in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I mean, like, getting help was a great thing for me. I ended up switching careers.
There you go.
And then when I got back into politics, it was in a way where I was no longer letting it intrude on my personal time with my family.
Yeah.
And I was setting healthier boundaries, and really just I wouldn't have done any of that shit if I hadn't gotten help. So go do that if you're on the
advice.
So, but yeah, that's just my not selfish, but my, we just want to take a second to remind everybody, because we know what it is to have rough days like that. So it doesn't hurt to talk about it. It doesn't make you any less of anything to go get the help that you need. So like Adam said, don't be a dumbass. Just, get the help you need.
Yeah.
So
I think that was well said. We don't want to end on such kind of a downer, something very serious like that. We try to end on an upbeat note. Charles put this on last minute on our agenda. You guys should know that we talk about an agenda, but we are all over the fucking place on this agenda. And, and when I would have Adam on our other podcast, it'd be like, all the points are made up and the agenda doesn't fucking matter. But the last thing we want to talk about, we're coming up on the 4th of July. We're all going to do something, I hope, to celebrate America. And we're going to do roundtable again. What do you guys love about America? Chris, you're first clockwise for me.
Yeah. So I think when I think about things that I love about America, I think about just the idea, right? So especially around this time of the year, thinking about the idea of this country where everyone's free to be. Sorry, it's my large dog got stepped on by my much larger dog, and that was.
I was just going to ask if everybody's okay.
Yeah. Is she okay? Okay. So anyways, I'll start that one again. So especially this time of the year, when I think about things about America that I love, I think about just the idea of America, right? Like where you're, this country where you're free to be, to be who you are, to, as long as you're not hurting other people, it's literally, we're literally one of the only countries that I can think of, at least, where it's defined that you were entitled to the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's the big one for me, is just the simple fact that freedom, when you actually think about freedom, not when you think about freedom how people who drape themselves in the Gadsden flag like to describe it, but when you think about freedom in general, is that we're one of the few countries where it's supposed to be an unlimited amount for you, as long as you're not hurting someone else. So
nice. Charles, you're next up on my clockwise rotation here.
Yeah, so first caveat here. This tumbler of whiskey is the most I've had to drink in over 2 years in one go. So we're a little trashed for this rendition of what I love about freedom.
The best way to talk about what you love about freedom.
Yeah, this is by definition an explicit podcast, man. Let it rip.
Yeah, so I decided that we should add this to the agenda when, in the middle of my road trip from Ogunquit, Maine to Portland, Maine to the suburbs of Philadelphia, I pulled over off the Jersey Turnpike because I really needed to take a piss. And the place I went to do that was the James Gandolfini Service Plaza in New Jersey, just across the border from New York. And I did this after driving on our wonderful interstate highway system and a series of state highways to bypass traffic across the reconstructed Tappan Zee Bridge, which has since been named after Mario Cuomo. Not the shitty Cuomo, the one who probably should have been president. And I stopped at the James Gandolfini Service Plaza, just across the border in New Jersey. And as I was rushing from my car to the bathroom, because that's how that sort of break works on a road trip, I thought, I'm at a service plaza named after an Italian American actor who played a mob boss on a niche cable television channel 20 years ago. All right, that's pretty cool. But then I thought, man, I fucking love America. I can, and I do, and I have driven all across this country for one reason or another in my life. Back when I was trying to play Magic the Gathering professionally in my very early 20s, like a dumbass.
Takes a big man to admit to that, Charles.
And then, subsequently visiting friends and family all over the country. And I've been and driven through almost every state in America that exists to drive through. And the really great thing about that is when you're on these road trips and you don't just try to drive straight from point A to point B, you get a chance to go around and meet people and see people who have experienced life in ways which are completely alien to the way that you grew up, but for the fact that you're both Americans and you have some level of commonality there. And I don't know if you guys, and I'm rambling and drunk, and but you guys, have you guys been to Europe?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, drive for 6 hours in Europe and you won't have that.
To drive for 6 hours in Europe and you've gone through 4 countries.
Exactly. You won't have that.
Yeah.
And also your gas bill will be 4 times higher. But that was the moment that hit me. I really, where it just hit me, and I thought, we need to have this on the agenda because I fucking love America. And specifically, I love the ability that we have to travel anywhere in this country. And generally speaking, yeah, that person has probably seen the game last night. And frankly, we might disagree about some of the things that we've said in the other segments of this show. But realistically speaking, at the end of the day, that's what we care about. And I think I think regardless of political disagreements, as long as there's that, as long as we can all travel, see each other, we're fine. So I fucking love America. And this drunk rant is going to sink my political career that I don't have.
Don't worry about it. Well said. Adam?
I love America for a lot of reasons, but the one that I'm going to discuss right now is the fact that despite what some contrarians might say online, we are the greatest wins above replacement world power in the history of humanity. There has never been a global or regional power that has done more good and less ill in the world than the United States of America. Now, everybody likes to point out all of the mistakes that we've made in the world. And I used to say in response to those that the United States is not uniquely good or uniquely bad. We're just uniquely powerful. And that any other country, any other nation state who has become either a global or even a regional power has made mistakes. But I won't even concede that much now. The more that I think about it, we have done, I mean, if you count up the good that we have done, the ill that we have done, and compare that to the British Empire, the French Empire, the Soviets, go back farther than that and pick some other even less savory world or regional powers, nobody approaches us in terms of the good that we have done compared to the ill that we have done. Have we made mistakes? Sure. But the United States, being a global power, has left the world a better place than we found it. And I don't apologize for that position. And anybody who will disagree with me on that point is full of shit.
No, I don't think anybody would argue with it there. Yeah. So I was trying to think while you guys were talking to get the numbers on it. The reason I love America is because of the to kind of build on Charles's point, is the opportunity it's given me, and it's given an absolute cornucopia of other people to come here and do what they wanted to do. And in my case, it was study science. So like, I'm in a unique field where when I was in grad school, I was in a room with 14 other graduate students. Only 3 of those 14 were Americans. So, there was like, I think 8 different nationalities in the room, and so I got to meet all these people from all over the world that I would never have met if I just stayed in West Virginia, my whole life. If I think about what I do at the national lab I work at, I'm a member of 2 different research groups that total about 60 people if you combine them, and I can count on. I was trying to make. I think I'm talking 6, Americans. So like on a day-to-day basis, I interact with people that are from India or from China or from Bangladesh or from Tehran. Russia. And I would not have had that opportunity if America wasn't the country it is, to invite all these people in to do their best work and to make America a better country as it is. So like, that's the part of America that I love. And kind of to build on Adam's point, like, if you think that's not what America should be, fuck you, you're wrong. Like, you have a bad idea of what America should be. Like, all these people coming here that want to be Americans is really what we should be proud of. Because if we were the terrible country that the people online want to accuse us of being, why does everybody across the globe, for the most part, want to come here and be part of what we're doing? And for the most part, even in our current history and our past, like Adam said, we've done more good than we've done bad. And
I think a big part of it too is that you can criticize the things that you love too and still love them.
Mm-hmm.
You can want them to be better, and you can want them to be better, and you can be involved in the process of making them better without being inherently un-American. And I think that's what people forget.
Yeah, you can be upset.
I think what is the core of the, I mean, I don't think there's any disagreement on this podcast on this point, that wraps us into what is, I think, the core criticism of the Trump administration on foreign policy, and that's that they're retreating from America's role in the world as a force for good.
Mm-hmm.
They're withdrawing and allowing malign actors to fill that void. And that repudiates the 20th century. So I don't want to, self-dox too much, but my grandfather is, I think, one of the unsung great men of the 20th century. He was a World War II veteran, went to college on the GI Bill after the war, went into the Foreign Service, and was in the upper levels of the American diplomatic corps in several Latin American countries, and was really a prominent person in American foreign policy of the 20th century. And the legacy of the thousands of people like him was the world order that we had at the end of the 20th century, which was a more peaceful world than we found at the beginning of that century.
Mm-hmm.
The 20th century truly was the American century. And the fact that we're retreating from that is a shame on our country.
Yeah. I would go further and but I don't want to say further criticisms at this point, but you're exactly right. And to Chris's point, the best way to love something is to want it to be better. You know, I can still love America and have a problem with jingoism. Like there's delineations you can make, you know. And like we've said before, I think Chris said it, like, you know, the freedom that we enjoy is not necessarily the same freedom that these people that walk around wearing the American flag as a cape, which is against the code, you jackasses. That's not the same freedom they're talking about. You know, Alex Jones does not shut up about freedom, but he means freedom for him and the people like him. And that's not what we're talking about in America when we talk about freedom. It's not it. And we should celebrate that.
You know, let's be fair to Alex Jones, because this is a difficult time in his life. You know,
I hope so.
Cold enough.
I hope so.
In the immortal words of Kendrick Lamar, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we've gone way over the hour that we usually try and keep these, but yeah. I mean, my advice is to go out and celebrate that freedom this week. Just make sure you do it in a way that you're coming back with all 10 of your fingers, because
exactly.
my favorite meme is that this is the last weekend that someone out there is going to have 10 fingers and they don't know it yet. Hey,
Chris, don't be a fascist. Don't tell people what to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's
if what calls you spiritually this weekend
is to have double digits numbers of beers,
is to drink fireworks. If you want to drink 12 Coors Lights and set off fireworks, there is no fascist in this country who can tell you can't do that.
Hey, actually, you know, there is, because you may start a wildfire.
Smokey the Bear is a fascist, and he can't tell you what to do.
There's also states where fireworks are illegal. But anyway.
Okay, I think we just came up with the
music. Let's get out of here.
I think we just came up with the title of the podcast, that Smokey Bear is a fascist.
Cheers.
All right, guys. Take care. Good luck, America.